the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and let me tell you, I had a video ready to go on Friday that I ultimately held back because I wanted to see how this thing actually developed before publishing. The team agreed it was the right call. The story I had been preparing was about how the Daily Beast had reported that Trump planned to use his speech at the dinner to attack the press and then walk out before the awards portion, because the Wall Street Journal was receiving recognition for its reporting on Trump's letter to Jeffrey Epstein. That was the story I thought I was telling. Then Saturday night happened, and that story became irrelevant. And I want to say this clearly at the top, because it needs to be said without equivocation. Political violence is never the answer. It is never acceptable. It does not matter who the target is, what the grievances are, or what the politics look like. That is not a complicated position, and it should not require elaboration. With that on the record, let's talk about what actually unfolded, and everything that followed. On the evening of April 25, 2026, at the Washington Hilton, a man named Cole Thomas Allen, a 31-year-old computer science graduate and tutor from Torrance, California, ran through a security magnetometer on the hotel's terrace level, carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. A Secret Service officer wearing a ballistic vest was shot once in the chest. The officer drew his weapon and returned fire. Allen fell to the ground. He was taken into custody, stripped of his shirt to check for explosives, and later charged with attempting to assassinate the President of the United States. Trump was evacuated from the stage. No one in the main ballroom was physically harmed. Allen had booked a hotel room at the Washington Hilton itself, the same property where the dinner was held, reserving it on April 6th for the nights of April 24th through 26th. He traveled cross-country by train from Los Angeles, arriving in Washington the day before the event. He had brought a disassembled shotgun in his luggage. An attendee whose hotel room was reportedly adjacent to Allen's described alarming security lapses in the hours leading up to the attack. The question that immediately followed was the one nobody in the administration wanted to answer directly. How does someone get a disassembled long gun into the same hotel where the President of the United States is scheduled to appear? A purported manifesto Allen emailed to family members roughly 30 minutes before the attack did not name Trump directly, but listed grievances against the administration, including American military strikes on what it called drug boats in the Pacific. It also mocked the security arrangements. What the hell is the Secret Service doing? No damn security, not in transport, not in the hotel, not in the event. The suspect's own written words, sent before the shooting, had identified the same vulnerability that security analysts and the attending press were discussing in the hours after. Surveillance video later released by the Justice Department showed Allen approaching the checkpoint at approximately 8:36 p.m., running through the magnetometer. According to security analysts, the footage showed agents removing some magnetometers roughly half an hour into the dinner, and Allen appeared to exploit that exact moment. The Secret Service director, Sean Curran, told reporters that the site had been set up perfectly and that his agents did a great job. When pressed on why the security perimeter was not extended further, he said the reason was classified. The answer to how did this happen was effectively, trust us. Now let's talk about the reaction, because the reaction is the second story and in some ways the more revealing one. Within hours of the shooting, before most of the attendees had even gotten home, a specific and remarkably coordinated message began flooding the political media ecosystem. By Sunday, Trump, the White House, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, former Attorney General Pam Bondi, and dozens of Republican lawmakers were all saying the same thing. This shooting proved the need to complete the White House Ballroom, the $400 million event space Trump has been trying to build on the grounds of the former East Wing, a project currently blocked by a preservation lawsuit and deeply unpopular with the public. House Speaker Mike Johnson went on Fox News and called the ballroom a solution, citing the proposed structure's windows being half a foot thick. A ballroom is imperative, said Representative Mike Lawler on Fox Business. Representative Michael Rowley added on the same program, "We've got to build that ballroom as soon as possible." A man with a gun had bypassed hotel security, and the lesson being drawn in unison by the party in power was not tighter screening, not extended perimeters, not accountability for the gaps in the existing protocols. It was build the ballroom. The Justice Department's own acting attorney general sent a letter to the National Trust for Historic Preservation demanding they drop their preservation lawsuit within 24 hours or face a motion to dismiss, arguing the litigation puts the lives of the president, his family, and his staff at grave risk. Let's be precise about what the ballroom actually is. It is not a secure bunker. It is an event space. The security failure at the Hilton was not that the venue lacked 7-inch thick glass windows. The security failure was that a guest at the hotel was able to check in with weapons in his luggage, walk down a back stairwell, and approach a security checkpoint while the President of the United States was inside the building. One conservative attendee who was present put it plainly, "No ballroom, no matter how grand, matters if we can't keep people safe first. Everyone's debating architecture while a shooter got into what should have been the most heavily secured event in America. It's a ridiculous distraction." That observation came from someone on the right, at the dinner, who lived through it. A Washington Post poll taken after the shooting found the ballroom opposed by 56% of Americans and supported by only 28%. The coordinated push did not move public opinion. It did generate several news cycles worth of coverage that successfully shifted attention away from the security failure itself. Then comes Senator John Fetterman, and this is where the frustration becomes impossible to contain. Fetterman posted on X the day after the shooting, "We were there front and center. That venue wasn't built to accommodate an event with the line of succession for the U.S. government. After witnessing last night, drop the TDS and build the White House ballroom for events exactly like these." He used the phrase TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, the exact term Trump uses to dismiss anyone who criticizes him. The lone Democrat in that ballroom used the president's own dismissive framing to advocate for the president's most ridiculed construction project, less than 24 hours after an assassination attempt. This is a man who holds a Democratic Senate seat in Pennsylvania. He is the only Democrat who has publicly criticized Democratic redistricting wins. He has consistently voted to confirm Trump cabinet picks that the rest of his caucus opposed. And now he is the sole Democrat telling his colleagues to stop opposing a $400 million vanity construction project because of a security failure that a ballroom would not have prevented. If the concern is genuinely that important events should not be held at venues where security is insufficient, the answer to that concern is better security planning. Not a new building that does not address a single one of the vulnerabilities that allowed Saturday's attack to get as far as it did. 2 days before the shooting, Jimmy Kimmel filmed a comedy sketch on his show in which he pretended to be the host of the upcoming correspondents' dinner. He told a joke. "Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow." A joke about the age difference between Trump and Melania, about Trump's health, delivered on a late-night cable program that has been making similar jokes about presidents for decades. 2 days after the shooting, both Donald and Melania Trump publicly accused Kimmel of inciting violence and called for ABC to fire him immediately. Melania released a statement saying the joke reflected hateful and violent rhetoric that deepens the political sickness within America. The FCC announced within days that it was accelerating a review of 8 local broadcasting licenses held by ABC. The FCC chairman later said the license review was unrelated to Trump's call to fire Kimmel. Whether you find that credible is a judgment call. What is not a judgment call is the timeline. The administration came under pressure over a genuine security failure involving a man with a shotgun, and within 48 hours, the dominant story in right-wing media was a comedian's stale joke about Melania's facial expressions. And while we're on the subject of violent rhetoric in the American political bloodstream, let's be precise about where it has actually been coming from. This is the same president who posted about Iran that their entire civilization will die and never be brought back again, a country of 90 million people, who posted, "Open the effing straight, you crazy bastards. You'll be living in hell. Just watch." Formal statements from Amnesty International described Trump's social media posts during the Iran campaign as potential violations of humanitarian law, amounting to threats of atrocity crimes against civilians. But the entity that the White House and its allies designated as the deepening force of political sickness in America was a comedian on a Thursday night cable show who made a stale widow joke. The hierarchy of outrage here is not subtle. A president threatening the annihilation of a civilization of 90 million people on a social media platform is Tuesday. A comedian making an age joke about his wife on late-night television is an emergency requiring FCC license reviews, public statements from the First Lady, and calls for immediate termination. And the constituency that spent 10 years screaming about cancel culture, about the woke mob trying to silence people for jokes, about the chilling effect of social pressure on free expression, that same constituency has now deployed the FCC as a pressure mechanism against a network for allowing a comedian to tell a joke that predated an unrelated shooting. The ideological consistency here is not hard to locate. There isn't any. What the security analysts actually said in the days that followed was that the event represented, in the words of former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, something that had risen almost on the level of a national security event given the concentration of senior government officials present: the Vice President, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the FBI Director, the Speaker of the House. And yet the highest security level was not invoked. The lobby of the Washington Hilton remained open to regular hotel guests throughout the evening. A man booked a room, walked down a back staircase, and approached a security checkpoint with loaded weapons. The suspect himself mocked the security arrangements in his own manifesto before the attack. The accountability question that follows all of this is the one nobody with power appears interested in asking seriously. The Secret Service director told the press his agency performed perfectly and that the secure zone was never breached. That is technically accurate. The shooter never entered the ballroom. He was stopped at the perimeter checkpoint. But the question is not whether the perimeter held. The question is how someone with a disassembled shotgun and a handgun booked a room in the same building, walked down an unsecured internal staircase, and got within sprinting distance of a checkpoint before anyone stopped him. That question has received no official answer beyond "it's classified." The response from the right has been "build the ballroom." The response from one Democrat has been "build the ballroom." The response from the First Lady has been "fire the comedian." The ballroom push ultimately collapsed on its own. Polling showed it was opposed by more than half the public and supported by barely a quarter, and the political momentum behind the push dissipated within days. But the pattern it revealed did not dissipate. A genuine security failure occurred. The political machinery converted it into a construction argument and a media pressure campaign before the dust had settled. And the actual question, how did the security around the President of the United States fall short enough that a man with a gun got as close as he did, remains, as of this writing, unanswered. Same as Butler, same as always.